tuning in today, everyone. I just want to let you know my book is out and available on Amazon and Barnes& Noble. The name is Parents, Our Greatest Teachers. And now, back to our episode.
Hello, everyone. This is your host, Alex Valgood, and this is Leap of Health. And today we're going to be talking about this amazing topic that, as you guys, if you have been hearing in my podcast, I've been bringing to you a lot of this world of psychedelics. And we're going to be talking to Kaia. She is a best-selling author, self-driven entrepreneur, and an accomplished film producer. Her book, The Joy Plan, A Practical Guide to Neuroscience of Joy, was featured on today's show, inspired by her healing experiences with psychedelic medicine. And that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about everything that she does and what are psychedelics and ketamine. That's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we dive into this whole amazing world, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to write this book and be a spokesperson for all these psychedelic medicine that's out there now.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. Talking about joy and psychedelics is my favorite topic. So I have a lot to say about that. But I actually wrote the Joy Plan 5 years ago before I had ever had a psychedelic experience. And I wrote the Joy Plan not because I was telling people, hey, here's how you get joy, because I was really looking for joy. I was going through a hard time in my life. I've been an entrepreneur. I'm based in Silicon Valley. I've started a number of companies over the years. One of those companies did not work out so well. It sent me into kind of a spiral of depression and anxiety, and I was trying to get myself out of it. And as a very business-oriented, business plan type person, I thought, okay, I'm going to make a plan to find joy, and I'm going to write down everything that I do, and I'm going to try and hack my brain to create the conditions for joy. And as I was writing down what I did and following, what worked, what didn't work, I learned a lot in the process, and I shared some of what I was learning with my friends, and they said, oh my God, you have to turn this into a book. Like you said, it did become a bestseller. It was on the Today Show. And through that process at the time, I was also a journalist with a lot of readers, and I was sort of offered various things for free or experiences to come and have as an influencer. And one of those things was a resort in Costa Rica, a retreat center in Costa Rica said, come spend a free week in Costa Rica at our retreat and just write about your experience. Do yoga, cleanses, life coaching, and plant medicine. And I was like, oh, plants? I like plants, ginger, garlic, like I'm a vegan, like I like plants. That sounds cool. So little did I know, I didn't really know what ayahuasca was at the time. And little did I know how much that experience was going to change my life. That was my first psychedelic experience in 2017. And ever since then, I became completely fascinated with what just happened to my brain, because I wrote this book, The Joy Plan, about the neuroscience of joy. How do you hack your brain to experience joy? And then I realized that there's these psychedelic compounds that actually help you do that. And everything that I had written about in my book, the specific daily practices that you can do to rewire your neural pathways, is going to be so much more effective after a psychedelic experience, after creating that reset that psychedelics do, which is like create a burst of new dendrites and create the conditions for extra neuroplasticity. So we can get into all of that, but that's just kind of like a little bit of my background.
No, that's amazing. I mean, ayahuasca has been around for a long time, and now it's becoming this topic, like this, like cool topic that everybody's talking about it. But it's very important. It's actually one of a very important ceremony that people takes very seriously, and it's not just, yeah, there is some fun into it, but it's very important for the people that actually do these practices. And it's just so amazing now that we have studies and everything that proves that they're actually help people with certain traumas,
Oh, yeah.
depression, and a bunch of things that's actually useful instead of using the conventional medicine that we've been using for a long, long time. And it might help some people, but most of the people, they either have side effects or you have to take medicine for a long time. So um, I think it serves us in a very minimum amount than what other natural, like psychedelics, can actually do in less, I guess, dosage or experiences that you might have with these things. Tell us a
Hmm.
little bit about ketamine. How does that work? And it, you were talking to me off air, like this is legal. There's something that people are doing now. I know something that I came across just recently is like there's actually centers that you can come in and have some sort of experience with ketamine.
Yes. So psychedelic compounds like ayahuasca, MDMA, LSD, psilocybin mushrooms, all at the federal level are Schedule 1, which means the federal government considers them to not have medical benefit and have a high propensity for abuse. Of course, I believe they are wrongly scheduled, and I hope and believe that that will change. However, ketamine, which is not a classical psychedelic, it's actually a dissociative, it's very commonly used throughout the world as an anesthetic to put people to sleep during surgery, but it does have a similar psychedelic effect on the brain, and it is Schedule 3, which means it is recognized to have medical benefit, and with a prescription, you can receive ketamine medically. Many studies have come out showing the profound effect that ketamine has on the brain of people who experience depression, anxiety, PTSD. It also works on the pain receptors. And so, a lot of people receive pain relief from ketamine treatment. So it is considered off-label because ketamine, is an anesthetic. In higher doses, it will put you to sleep, but in a low dose, it will put you into a certain psychedelic state and have a certain effect on the brain that then can really help people who are struggling with some of these mental health conditions, which these days is like, who isn't? So it can really help a lot of people. And like you said, there are ketamine clinics around the country. When you go to a ketamine clinic, you will typically get an infusion of ketamine, which means they're going to give you ketamine in an IV. You're going to lay back, you're going to cover your eyes, maybe listen to some relaxing music and have an experience for an hour or two. Getting ketamine in a clinic is kind of a big commitment. You can't drive afterwards, so you need to get yourself there. You need to take some time off work, go when the clinic is open. It's not covered by insurance generally. Some clinics combine the ketamine with therapy and they can get the therapy part covered by insurance, but it can be pretty expensive to do it in a clinic. But there's usually payment plans and financing, and your health is worth every dollar. So it's amazing that more and more ketamine clinics have been opening across the country. But when I learned about ketamine and I learned that this is legal and it has profound effects on the brain, it creates a burst of new dendrites, so you can really harness this time of new extra neuroplasticity and create new habitual ways of thinking and speaking and acting, and really change your life. I wanted to help it become more accessible and more affordable, so I co-founded a company called KetaMD. And this is a at-home ketamine treatment where you are assessed over telemedicine by a doctor to make sure that ketamine treatment is appropriate for you. And then you receive the ketamine, what is called a troche or a lozenge. It's like like a cough drop that melts in your mouth, and you do the treatment at home from the comfort of home at a time that's convenient for you, while being watched over by a nurse over telemedicine, and while you have someone in your home making sure that everything is safe. We have a very medical approach. You have a blood pressure cuff, you are checked out medically to make sure it's very safe, and it is able to, like, bring the cost down and just increase accessibility doing it this way. So until all of the other psychedelic compounds are legal and more widely available, I'm really grateful that ketamine is available, because I hear stories every day about how it's changing people's lives.
Yeah, no, it's great because people that are having these type of treatments that been on anxiety of depression medicine, they've been on these medicines for like many, many years, and then
That's true.
suddenly find these psychedelic therapies, and they
Yeah.
go 1, 2 times, and they're the percentage of feeling better, it's like 90%, 80%. It's very, very high compared to what they've been doing for many years, and they are
Yeah.
really not getting
Without side effects, which is also so nice, because so many of the traditional treatments have really horrible side effects. So
Yes.
yeah, I agree. I do want to say, though, nothing is a panacea, and especially when you're working with psychedelics, it's not just about like take the medicine and then everything will be fine. I have kind of a formula that I talk about, the 3 I's of the ideal psychedelic experience to really get the most out of the medicine. And this is regardless of whether you're working with ketamine or psilocybin or ayahuasca or any compound. The first I stands for intention. And, setting an intention is like drawing a map. It can help direct your journey and help direct your brain pathways to what is it that you're actually trying to accomplish. It could just be feel better, could be have more positive thoughts, like whatever it is. It's good to set an intention, because our intention directs our energy. So that's the first step. The second step is to really allow the insights to come. I mean, the psychedelic journey is difficult to describe, but if you surrender to it and you are in a safe setting, or the right mindset and a safe setting, and then surrender to the experience, allow the insights to come. That's the second I, because powerful insights usually will come. People who've experienced trauma might re-experience it, or see it from a different perspective. You can receive some pretty profound insights. People say it's like doing 10 years of therapy in an hour. And then the third I is integration. And I say that the integration isn't a third of the process, it's like 50% of the process. Because if you have this profound experience, or you create these new conditions in your brain, and then you don't make any changes afterwards, you're not going to get the benefit. And you can just slip right back into old patterns of experiences. So the integration is how you take what you learned and then integrate it every single moment, basically, into your new life. It's the beginning of a new life. A psychedelic experience is an opportunity to have a reset, but then you have to actually start with the steps to create that new life that you want to, match your intention.
Yes, for sure. And I think it's super important, and you point that out. I know I had other guests come in and talk about psychedelics, and they point that out, that it's so important what you just said. You can't just go and expect that you're going to be like healed and free from everything that's been haunting you down. Now you have to take that step of like, okay, so now I'm seeing life with a different lens. How am I going to integrate that into the life that I've been living for 15 years? How am I going to do those little changes to make things better and really get everything that I can from this experience and go and move forward? So I think it's super, super important for everybody that is listening. It's not just let me go do this ayahuasca, or let me go to this,
Yeah.
and then that's it. It's
Yeah.
just like a magic wand. I think it's that magical as we wish it could be, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything
I
is
mean, it
work.
can definitely be magical, but you have to put in the work.
That's the main thing right there. I think life is so amazing and life is work. And I think that the soonest we acknowledge that and embrace that, our life is just going to become better and better every time.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Being human isn't easy. And we didn't come with a user manual. So we're really lucky that we have these compounds. Obviously, many of these plant medicines have been around for thousands of years, been used traditionally for thousands of years. I'm glad there's like a new interesting renaissance happening. One of the companies that I work with, Psycheceutical, is actually developing psychedelics for the pharmaceutical industry. I think this is amazing. I think that's what needs to happen to get this medicine out to as many people as possible, as long as it's done responsibly and safely and, ethically. But yeah, we don't necessarily come with a user manual for how to make the most of this brain that we have, and make the most of this human experience that we're having. And I think these psychedelics can really help if used
Yeah,
in the right
no,
way.
of course. I think so too. And I think it's just so amazing that we can actually get a hold of these things. And if we've been doing conventional medicine for so long, we have this other option that can really, really help a lot of people that, has PTSD, traumas, anxiety, depression, and a bunch of other mental things that are happening nowadays with all this technology. We're always busy, we're always stressed, everything is happening all at once. And so yeah, I think it's so super, super important. Tell us a little bit about more about really you were talking about neuroplasticity
Hmm.
and the effects within. I think this is so important for people to understand what really is that, how it works with the brain. And I think it gives us a better picture of like why these psychedelics are so important in our modern life now.
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking me. That's like my favorite topic to talk about. So I'm just going to grab a piece of paper. This is how I like to explain neuroplasticity. That's a weird effect from my background. Okay, so if you have a piece of paper and you fold it in half intentionally, you have to really, carefully line up the edges and press on the creases and get that fold in there. And then let's say you fold it again a second time, and like take some work to fold that paper the first time. But then when you go to fold it the second time, sorry, it's a weird effect. It just goes back naturally, right? Second time, third time, goes back naturally. So this is how I like to explain neural pathways and neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity just means that our brains are moldable and shapeable. They're made out of billions of neurons, which are these little tiny nerve cells. And those nerve cells will clump together and form neural pathways. And the neural pathways are like the folds in this piece of paper. They're like highways that your brain travels on repetitively because they're familiar. It's like getting into the car and driving to the gym, and you didn't even realize that you drove there because it's just so habitual. So the more often you think a thought or speak certain words or take certain actions, the stronger those neural pathways become, the stronger those connections between the neurons become. And sometimes our neural pathways are positive. You learn how to play the piano, you learn how to ride a bike, you know how to cook pasta. These are like things that they're habits, they're things that you've learned as a child. And then you can also have sort of like these grooves or neural pathways that aren't so good for you, like negative habitual ways of thinking, self-criticism, self-doubt, fear, depression, anxiety. These are neural pathways as well. And even trauma, like constantly being triggered back to your trauma, is a neural pathway. And so what happens in a psychedelic experience is that you get a burst of new dendrites or increased amount of neurons. And they've found, I really am so grateful that so much new research and science is coming out about all these different compounds: psilocybin, ayahuasca, ketamine, MDMA. But what they're really finding with all of them is that they all have that same similar effect of creating new neuron growth, which then is like freshly driven snow that you can form these new neural pathways in a lot more easily. I mean, I talk in my book, The Joy Plan, about steps you can take every day to form new neural pathways, but you're still working with the old ones that you've got. So if you get like this new reset, then you can kind of harness our brain's natural ability to change and shape its, neuroplastic shape over time, with the, increased ability to form new neural pathways through your integration work after the psychedelic experience. The other thing that they've found pretty much all psychedelics do is quiet the activity of the default mode network. So the default mode network is that part of your brain that will default to thinking about yourself and your whatever is like most salient for your brain at the time, which is usually something that you're worried about. I mean, we're all wired with a negativity bias, which means in order to keep us safe and alive, our brain will focus 3 times more on any kind of negative input than positive input. So you can have 3 positive things happen to you in a day and 1 little negative thing, and that's the thing that you'll focus on. And that's just how we're wired. And the default mode network, 90% of our thoughts are repetitive, and the default mode network is often taking you back to those things that you're worried or fearful about. This is just like the human brain. Some people's default mode network is wired for creativity, which is awesome. If you've got that going on, like you're writing a book, or you're working on a creative project, that's a really great default mode network activity to have. But in a lot of people, it's more like worrying. So psychedelics will calm and quiet the activity of the default mode network and actually shift the negativity bias. So you have focused less on negative thoughts and input after a psychedelic experience as well, and calm the amygdala, which is the fear danger sensor in the brain. It's kind of like that ancient part of the brain that would, tell us that we were being chased by a tiger. And now it's not necessarily relevant all the times that it's telling us that we're in danger. And then, after the psychedelic experiences, all of those mechanisms are quieted, and it's like gives you this window of opportunity to take advantage of neuroplasticity without all those negative voices screaming at you, so you can form the new neural pathways that match your intention, if that makes sense.
That was probably the best explanation of how neuroplasticity works.
Oh,
So
I'm
thank
glad.
you.
I'm glad.
That was great. I think in order to understand all these psychedelics and how they work and why they're so important to bring them up now in our modern medicine, it's because of what they do. I think now we're stopped talking about the taboo of psychedelics and what people might have think they were or whatever. Now we're bringing this scientific perspective to it and be like, look, yeah, psychedelics sounded like a little, groovy and maybe weird in the 70s and whatever. But it's just what the narrative that the media has put on us. We really never sat down and looked them up and see what the psychedelics were doing to people in the 70s, right? Or something. But now we're bringing this scientific perspective, this different lens to it, and be like, look, yeah, they stuck with the name. They're psychedelics.
Yeah.
But this is what they're doing for a lot of people. And so I think it's like very important to have that explanation, see what it is doing in your brain. It has no side effects. You're not gonna grow another arm, or you're not gonna have all these weird things. You're not gonna become an addict, because that's something that a lot of people thinks that it's just a drug. What's your take on all these people that are like, look, I'm not into drugs.
Right.
I have PTSD and I take my stuff very seriously. So what is something that you will say to all these people that they still have this like a little bit of taboo in front of them, and they're like, oh, I don't know, I don't really know if I want to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really good point. And, what I like to think of is there's a difference between a drug and a medicine. A drug suppresses symptoms and a medicine heals. And so to me, psychedelics are medicine. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to take a psychedelic and all your symptoms are going to go away. You're going to go through a healing journey. The psychedelics will take you into the healing that you need. And we all need healing. I mean, it's impossible to be human on the planet right now and not have it, some kind of trauma stored in your DNA. So like if there is medicine available that can help us heal, then I think it's important to understand it. I'm really grateful that there is so much incredible research that's coming out. Organizations like MAPS, if go to maps.org and look at like the extensive research that organization is presenting, Johns Hopkins, Yale, I mean, all the top, Harvard, like all the top universities now in the world are studying these psychedelics. So, that's just my take on it, is that these are medicines. The effect on the brain and the physiology is being proven. And unlike other things, they're dealing with something like an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety that will come with a lot of side effects. Generally, psychedelics do not have side effects. I mean, it depends on what you're taking. Like, for example, if you go have an ayahuasca ceremony experience, you're probably going to vomit, and like that could be considered a side effect. But if you're sitting with a shaman and this is coming from a lineage that's been around for thousands of years, that purge is part of the experience. You're purging out your trauma, you're purging out your fears. So I mean, it's not like you won't feel anything. But like one of the companies I mentioned, Psycheceutical, is actually working on delivery mechanisms for getting the psychedelic compounds straight to the brain and taking out any of the hallucinogenic effects, just for the brain benefits. And I think, the experience and the ceremony part is super appropriate and powerful for many people. And I think that for people like the elderly or children or, brain trauma injury patients, and it's just so many things that we're still learning how these compounds can help folks. It's very appropriate to take the psychedelic experience out of it. So I'd say, it's just important to be open to new innovations in medicine. There are new innovations coming along all the time, and those new innovations may be based in ancient wisdom, but just be open. And in the question to addiction, I do find that one really interesting, that like these psychedelic compounds do not have any addictive properties, and in fact they really work to combat addiction. A lot of people will find after a psychedelic experience, they are just repulsed by whatever it was they were having an addiction to before, because it rewires you. And then, the experience that you have may show you what void you were looking to fill with that addiction, and then it's filled, and so you're not looking to do that anymore. So psychedelics can actually be a very powerful treatment for addiction rather than leading to addiction. It's quite the opposite.
Yeah, I love that. And a lot of people that have whatever addictions, now they're using psychedelics as a treatment to stop in addictive to
Especially
whatever they're.
ibogaine. If anyone out there is struggling with addiction, there is a very, very powerful plant medicine called iboga or ibogaine, made from a root of a plant that grows in Africa. And this is probably the only substance on earth that can break a heroin addiction or like a fentanyl or opiate addiction with no withdrawals in 24 hours or less. And I've seen it with my own eyes. It's really, really remarkable what this compound does in the brain, and to, the addictive receptors, and just it's a it's a godsend because, you know, we have a huge addiction crisis going on in the world. Ibogaine is not legal in this country, but you can get Ibogaine treatment in Mexico, in Costa Rica, in New Zealand, you know, certain places in Europe. So there are places where it's legal, and I really hope it, you know, the laws will change so that it will be available legally here, because it's so needed and it's so effective.
That is amazing. Yes, I've heard of it. I wasn't sure what it really did, but those those are such a great news to hear.
It
Because
is really good news, and we need some good news, especially when it comes to the opiate addiction crisis, because there's just no treatments that work. So that one is great. That one, I was in Cancun in July at an Ibogaine treatment center called Beyond. I wanted to go and experience it for myself. I was there with some people who were dealing with opiate addiction. I kept in touch with them afterwards, and this stuff works. It really works.
oh, it's amazing because a lot of people wants to change their life, but they're so hooked in all these so addictive drugs
Yeah.
that it's so hard to stop the addiction. So these treatments are amazing, and they are great news.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. And I love that. I love that you talk about how this is a medicine and not a drug. I think for so long, all these old cultures talk about the medicine, the plant, the medicine plant, and I think it's so appropriate to call it that way because it was used for healing, for healing all these
Yeah.
people in the past. So I think uh, going back to our roots a little bit, I think it's awesome and it's worth it, and it's really changing our modern world now. What are
Yeah.
you? Yeah, it's amazing. I
It's
get
an
so
exciting
excited.
time. It's good. It's good that we have some solutions on the horizon, because so many people are suffering in the world right now with their mental health.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is just amazing. I think more and more people will stop having these taboos about psychedelics, and it's just great to keep talking about it, seeing the research, seeing all these people. I think someone in the research on maps, they were talking about like we wish that in the future people can go to the pharmacy, Walgreens, CVS, or whatever, and get their psychedelics because they're feeling certain way, or they want to stop smoking tobacco, or whatever it is that they
Yeah.
use it for. So
Yeah.
I thought
That's
that
what we're
was just
working toward.
like that was so revolutionary that people can go to the pharmacy and buy naproxen or any other painkiller that they will be abusing for so long, and that they will
Right.
actually damage their body for so long. and
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that we want to get to the pharmacy to something that's gonna really heal you, I thought that was like groundbreaking and super super cool.
Yeah,
It,
yeah, it is. It is exciting to think that that's where we're headed. A big study came out comparing the efficacy of microdosing psilocybin mushrooms compared to taking antidepressants over a long period of time in, I think it was like 700 people. It was a pretty significant size study. And, they found that the psilocybin mushrooms were just as effective or more effective than the antidepressants with no side effects. So I do look forward to a day when people can go to the pharmacy and pick up their psilocybin microdose. Or like with ketamine, which is legal now. One of the formulations that the company Psycheceutical that I work with is developing is a topical ketamine that you apply with a cream to the back of your neck. The compound just goes in through the skin, straight into the receptors in the brain. And this one is actually being developed for PTSD and calms the trauma response that's happening in the brain. And you don't even have to take a medication or have an experience in a clinic or take time out of your day or experience anything other than a little bit of cream on the back of your neck. And, so eventually we hope, that'll be something that people can pick up at a pharmacy. And it is exciting to know that these innovations are coming and relief is on the way, for so many people who are suffering.
Yeah, especially with PTSD in our country. I mean, how many people commit suicide because of PTSD? It's just,
Right.
it's
It's on the
it's
rise
crazy.
since the pandemic, especially. Suicide rates are much higher, especially among young people. So it's a real epidemic in this country, especially. So we need solutions desperately.
Yeah, with no side effects. Let me point that out.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's what's so beautiful about these medicines.
It's really, really awesome. What are some of the more things that you look forward in the future with the psychedelics?
Well, I'm actually working on a project that has to do with frequency medicine. So I'm a film producer and I'm working on a documentary about basically like, let me say it this way. We think that we are solid. We think that we are made of matter, but we are actually, we and everything around us is 99.9999999% empty space. And actually, we're made of energy, and that energy is vibrating at certain frequencies, and we're interacting, with other frequencies all the time. And there are ways to harness our own body's natural frequencies and interact with, other frequencies for healing. And this is, I think, the next level. Like, I'm super excited about psychedelics, and that's a very biological thing. You put a biological compound in your body, you change, biological aspects of your brain. But I think the next wave is actually frequency medicine. And so I wanted to show you something that I'm wearing today. This is a patch. Embedded in this patch are electrical wires that have tiny crystals in them, and the crystals have been charged with the frequency of psilocybin mushrooms, and that frequency gets released as soon as the special adhesive touches the skin, and then it's released like a battery for 48 hours. And if that sounds super woo-woo, just think about the silicone chips in your computer or your phone. That's a crystal. Crystals hold information, and everything is information. If we're really not even solid matter, what are we? We're information. And so what I'm really excited about is like new technologies like that are coming. Like, basically, I'm doing a mushroom microdose right now with no compound. So nobody can tell me that it's illegal. Nobody can regulate it. This has no ingredients, but my body is getting the frequency of that medicine, and I feel great. It works. It's amazing. And this is, I think, the new wave of where medicine is going. And frequencies have been used in medicine for a long time. Like, they'll aim a frequency at you if you have a kidney stone, and from outside your body, that frequency will disperse the kidney stone. So, we already know that frequencies affect the body, but I think there's just also, new research and development and interesting products and options coming out in that area as well.
Yeah, no, it's amazing because now we're talking about quantum healing.
Exactly.
I've talked to a lot of quantum healing experts in our show, and
Nice.
it's a topic that it's really out there. It's really helping a lot of people with different
Mm-hmm.
modalities, as you mentioned. We're all frequency. You could either be on high frequency or low frequency. We use grounding as a frequency healing too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many things that we're already doing, and we have no idea that we're doing some sort of like frequency
Right.
modality healing and stuff.
Right.
So this is
Yeah,
great.
even music, the whatever music that you listen to, like, you're taking in those frequencies. Is that music energizing you? Is it soothing you? Is it kind of irritating you? Like, yeah, everything is a frequency.
Yeah, no, and it's just so amazing. I thought, as I mentioned earlier to you, off air, we were talking about how I found your video, and you were talking about the frequency on how you can just have that patch and have the microdosing without the actual, ingestion something, the mushrooms or whatever it is that you're taking. So I thought that was just so amazing, and it's so simple to understand.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we try and make these concepts so complicated, but I mean, it is really simple. Ultimately, we live in an energetic based universe, and we are just energy interacting with each other, and energy follows intent. And yeah, we're just like, we're more than we think we are. So that's my main message that I really want to get across to people is whatever struggles you're dealing with, there's healing available, and a lot of it can be just shifting your frequency. Maybe you consume a psychedelic and it's something about the frequency of that psychedelic changing, your frequency, or tapping into some kind of like frequency medicine or meditation, or just even changing the people that you're around, or the conversations that you're having. Everything is frequency, and shifting your frequency can create massive healing. And I know, we're talking about healing today, and healing is my favorite topic. I've definitely been on a healing journey for a long time, still am. So, that's what really motivates me, is like, as a biohacker, always looking for, how can I create healing for myself, for my family, for the people I love? How can I bring information about healing out to as many people as possible? Because we all need healing.
Yes. No, and we thank you. Thank you for all that you've done. The companies that you work for, the book out there, all the information that you're spreading. I think it's super important. And so, yeah, no, thank you. And thank you for being here today. Is there something that you would like to tell us before we close?
Well, first of all, also thank you, Alex, for, breaking the taboo on this subject and bringing such important information to light on your podcast. So I just really want to thank you for what you're doing to spread awareness and information and be an advocate. And thank you for having me. I just love to tell people, if you want to be in touch, follow along on my projects, you can find me on Instagram at Kaia Roman Author. I'm also Kaia Roman Author on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, Kaia Roman, at Kaia Roman on Twitter. And if you're interested in learning more about ketamine treatment, which, can really help anyone out there who's struggling with anxiety, depression, PTSD, it is available in many clinics around the country, and through my company that I co-founded, KetaMD.com, or download the KetaMD app from the App Store or Google Play. Check it out. See if it might, help you or someone that you love. So yeah, thank you again for this great conversation. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for all these things that you're doing. I am so thankful I came across with you. You are spreading all this information that it's very important right now. So thank you, thank you. For everybody that is listening, I will put all her information on the show notes so you guys can get in contact with her if you want to follow her on social media. She has all these videos and all this information out there, and her book is out too. You can
Oh
also
yeah,
get her
my
book.
book.
Don't
Yes,
forget about.
please. The Joy Plan. It's available on Amazon, Audible. If you like to listen to books, it's available like in bookstores, Walmart, Target, Barnes and Noble, those kinds of places as well. So yeah, please check out my book, The Joy Plan. I appreciate it. And if you're not on social media, you're also welcome to find me at my website, KaiaRoman.com.
Yes, yes. I will put all that information
Thank
so you
you.
can definitely get in touch with her. Remember, if you want to know more about my show, you can go to my website, alexbalga.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, pretty much everywhere. And also remember, my book is out and you can find it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. It's called Parents Are Greatest Teachers. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. This was so amazing, and I hope you got some really cool information and take it with you. Thank you, Kaia, and thank you for everybody to be here. Have a blessed day,
Thank you,
everyone.
Alex. Thank you. Thank you so much.